Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
Hey everyone, this is Landon Saunders.
And this is Nate Patterson with Cloud9 Fiber.
We're excited to finally be able to offer Lawrenceburg our blazing fast, reliable, and affordable fiber internet services.
If you're looking for a more reliable and more affordable provider, we at Cloud9 Fiber have you covered.
Plans start at $50 a month, and we can offer up to a gigabit to your home or business.
We are excited to be able to offer your first month of service entirely free. We encourage you to sign up on cloud9fiber.com or by calling 931-201-9098 so we can help you make the switch today.
For the best meal from south of the border, head to Cocina Real in Puente Grande for lunch and dinner. With a wide array of mouth-watering entrees, there's something for everyone on the menu. And you can't forget the cheese dip. They'll treat you like family, and you'll never leave hungry. Make Cocina Real Mexican Restaurant and Puente Grande Mexican Restaurant your choice for authentic cuisine, located in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee.
I'm Mike Keith, and my friends at Elliott Johnson Insurance have a great partner in Auto Owners Insurance. Auto Owners makes it easy to get life, home, car, or business insurance. Let Elliott Johnson Insurance find the Auto Owners policy that makes a difference in your life. Call Elliott Johnson Insurance at one of their 3 locations, Florence, Loretto, and Lawrenceburg. Elliott Johnson Insurance, moving forward for our clients every day.
Welcome to Employee Resources Credit Union, where you're more than just a number, you're family. We provide financial solutions that rise above those of traditional banks. With roots stretching back to 1964, we've served 4 generations during constant industry changes. We're known for our low fees and incredible rates. Join us and experience the credit union difference. ERCU, not for profit, for service.
Comprehensive care with a compassionate touch. That will always be the guarantee at Encompass Healthcare in Etheridge, Tennessee. Whether you're looking for primary or urgent care, x-ray services, or weight loss treatments, the team at Encompass is equipped to serve your needs today. The doors are open Monday through Thursday from 8 to 5 and from 8 to noon on Fridays. Make an appointment with providers Kendra Brown, Tori Cox, or Ellie Brown today. That's Encompass Healthcare, located on Highway 43 North in Etheridge, next door to Chapman Tire.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And welcome everybody in to the X Sports Network here for our Friday edition of the Mark My Words College Sports Show. I'm your host, Michael Marks, and we have a lot to get into, folks, as it is our last show before Christmas. We're not going to have any shows next week, so we got a lot of stuff to get through here today as, guys, playoff starts tonight. I mean, it feels like it's come out of nowhere, but, you know, we've gotten through the time. It is time for the college football playoff to start. But before we get into those game predictions, ESPN released a list earlier in the week ranking each individual team that has made the college football playoff, all the way from the first 4-team playoff in the 2014-2015 season, the one that was Alabama and Ohio State, Oregon, and Florida State, all the way till last year's 12-team, this year's 12-team. So we've gotten to 64 teams overall. And ESPN's Bill Connolly, and I'm sure a couple other people threw some insight into this article. So, yeah, we're going to break it down, all 64 teams, whether I agree or disagree. And we'll start off at number 64 with the 2025 Tulane Green Wave, as this year's Tulane team, obviously, their college football playoff matchup. First round at Ole Miss. It says John Summerall's final Tulane team is adaptable and resilient, but certainly clears a physicality bar that not every awesome group of 5 team might. But the Green Wave have 2 losses: 45-10 against Ole Miss earlier in the season, and 48-26 at UTSA. We're a sign that when things go awry, the ceiling is much, much lower than what we might expect from a playoff team. I don't think Tulane's even the worst team in this playoff, much less the worst team to ever make the playoffs. Now, they will probably be the only 2-loss Group of 5 team that we see make it for a while. It's kind of amazing that we got to that point this year, that a 2-loss Group of 5 team isn't even the lowest seeded team. But I definitely don't think that Tulane is the worst playoff team we have ever seen. Number 63, last year's Clemson Tigers lost 38-24 to Texas in the first round. I can understand this team being ranked that low. They were not going to make the playoff before that ACC championship game, and won the game. And I think they were awarded the 12 seed. I think they were ranked that low that they were the 12 seed to make it into that playoff. They played that Texas team pretty close, but I think that there was a noticeable talent gap, and I think that this playoff game right here is the singular reason that we hyped Clemson up so much, because this year's team was, I'd say, pretty much the same as last year's Clemson team, maybe missing a piece or two. I didn't think last year's Clemson team was anything special. The two ACC teams that made the playoff that year are, Clemson and SMU, who we'll get to in just a second, because they're not ranked very highly either. So I think that this is a fair ranking, because I think that this game is the reason that we hyped up Clemson. Oh, they made the playoff and they got everybody back. Sometimes that doesn't work. Look at Florida in 2009. They had the same team for almost 4 years, running out there every Saturday to play for Urban Meyer. And eventually it got a little tired of winning. It felt like a job, and it didn't hit the same. So it's not like every year teams are going to get better just because they're older or more experienced. Number 62, last year's SMU team. I think that's fair. They got drilled in the first round. It did not. That was the least fun playoff game maybe ever. It just felt cold. Watching that game. 100,000, 110,000 people in Beaver Stadium. Yeah. I'm not going to say that SMU team was bad, but if you watched them throughout the season, they were a team that consistently were just getting away with it. They would just skim by Duke or just skim by somebody else. So, yeah, I don't think they were anything special. They probably would have they had a really good chance to be perfect in the regular season. Lost a couple of games in there, but, I didn't see them as anything special. At number 61, last year's Boise State team that lost to Penn State in the Fiesta Bowl. I think that one's a little too low. Penn State, or the Boise State team, was the 3 seed last year in the playoff. It was the third highest ranked conference champ behind the Big Ten and the SEC. I don't agree with this at all. I think that if that Boise State team got to, I'm not sure if any of the other matchups would have fared much better for them, because we didn't see any of the 1 through 4 win. So, they got beat worse than Oregon did. Or they didn't get beat as bad as Oregon did. Where's last year's Oregon team? Because this Boise State team played that Oregon team that was number 1 in the country and 13-0 up to that point. Played them within 14 points. Now Ashton Genty was that entire team, but I think we need to give that Boise State team a little more credit than what they got, because look at the team ranked in front of them. This year's James Madison team. They're going to go play at Oregon. We'll preview that game in a little bit. It's a fun team, but nobody was talking about JMU even making the playoff 3 weeks before the end of the season. They just kept winning, and eventually snuck their way in there, because the way the rules worked out, they were a beneficiary of being a conference champ. I do not agree with them being ranked above that Boise State team. I think Boise State and JMU, if they played this year, I don't think Boise would beat them like a drum, but I think Boise would win pretty handily. Maybe a 38-24, 31-14, something like that. You could not stop Ashton Genty last year. And, I get he was most of that team, but their defense was good. Their quarterback, they had a pretty good quarterback as well. You don't get to the playoff by accident. So, again, number 60 was this year's JMU team. Again, would not have made the playoff in most years. And we're, a beneficiary of some of the way the playoff is formatted. If it was the 12 best teams, they would not have sniffed it. But neither would have last year's. I think last year's Boise State would have probably been right around a fringe team. But that SMU team probably wouldn't have maybe would have made it. I don't know. That Clemson team from last year would not have made it, and this year's Tulane team would not have made it. But a team that did make the playoff fair and square was 2015 Michigan State. Like most of you probably don't remember this game. Alabama beat them like a drum on the way to a national championship game appearance. I don't believe that may have been the year that they did actually win it. But Derrick Henry, I mean, everybody's seen the video of Derrick Henry throwing a defensive lineman off of him like he was nothing. That tells you about that Michigan State team. But 2015, the Big Ten was really, really good. I'll pull them up real quick because, I mean, there were 4 teams from the Big Ten that could have made it to the playoff. Looking at the standings, and we'll just look at the Eastern Division because that's where a majority of the talented teams were. But you had an 11-1 Michigan State, an 11-1 Ohio State, and a 10-2 Michigan. That's a dang good division. But even if you look at the cross region, Iowa went perfect in conference play. Northwestern and Wisconsin were each 10-3 at the end of the season. And listen, that Big Ten championship game between Iowa and Michigan State, that was a great playoff. I mean, it was an ugly game, but it was a fun game. And just to see that Michigan State season end like that was kind of disappointing because that was kind of when they started going on the decline. Because Mark D'Antonio had some great teams that just that close. 58, this year's Alabama team. They got a first-round game at Oklahoma. I think this Alabama team is probably has the least momentum going into the playoffs this year just because, I mean, they've lost 2 of their last 4. Other than that game against Eastern Illinois, which is an FCS opponent, they haven't really looked like the same Alabama team. They looked shaky against Oklahoma. They looked shaky against Auburn, and they got destroyed by Georgia. A lot of people don't like them being in the playoffs. I think that this year there are 12 teams that should be in the playoffs, but the way the field worked out, only 10 of them could make it. But there was October. Alabama had locked themselves in for that playoff spot in October because they went on a streak where they beat Georgia at Georgia, beat Vandy at home, beat Missouri at Missouri, and then beat Tennessee at home. Now, after that was kind of when they started following, sort of withering away. But, I talked about it on this show. How beat up are they going to be, and when are they going to start taking a step down? We saw it in the month of November. The Tide play Oklahoma tonight. We'll talk about that game in a little bit. This has a chance to be a pretty important game just looking forward. I mean, looking at the 8-9 matchup last year, it was a blowout in favor of Ohio State, but they went on to win the national championship. Number 57 is this year's Oklahoma team, ranked just above Alabama. Oklahoma was in a weird spot where a lot of people didn't, maybe they weren't worthy of a playoff spot because they have by far the worst offense out of anybody in this playoff. It's not even really that close. Their offense is bad. But their defense is, this year is a defensive college football playoff. A lot of good defenses: Alabama, Oklahoma, Georgia, Texas Tech, Indiana, and Ohio State. I think Oklahoma's is right up there with the rest of them, if not the best. I think they're slightly behind Ohio State and Texas Tech, but they're right there. Because that defense, you were not going to be able to run the ball, and it's going to be a cold game tonight. I would anticipate in Norman. Let's check the weather in Norman, Oklahoma for today, or at least for tonight. So right now it feels like 35 degrees in Norman, and that is at 11:20 a.m. Probably the hottest point of the day. Game kickoff is we'll check that, but let's see what the feels like is going to be because it could be pretty cold. Might not be. Who knows? Whew. It's going to be right around freezing point. The feels like with all the wind. I mean, they're 15-mile-an-hour wind gusts. So, whew. And this is a game where, Alabama's poor kicking screwed them up in this first matchup. Well, 15-mile-an-hour winds, I don't care who you are. Tate Sandell probably isn't going to be able to kick in that unless it's at his back. What way is the wind blowing? Blowing north. So, maybe the wind could help somebody in this one. It's not blowing east and west. It's blowing north and south, so it'll be, right at somebody's back and right in somebody else's face. Now, I'm sure that the coin toss will probably tell you exactly which way that goes. But listen, Oklahoma won their games, and they deserve to be here. Now, I don't know. I don't know if they'll win a game. If they'll, could they win 2 games? I don't know. But what I do know is that tonight you got a slugfest, and don't look at it as number 58 versus number 57 at all time in the playoff teams. Look at it as 8 versus 9 because they're really good teams. Number 56, we got the 2019 Oklahoma team. That was the Jalen Hurts year. CeeDee Lamb. Unfortunately, they ran into the LSU buzzsaw that was, the Joe Burrow, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Randy Moss's son was on that. Terrence Marshall. You go to the defense, guys like Patrick Queen, Grant Delpit, Derek Stingley. I mean, that defense was loaded from top to bottom. That entire team. So, I think that if they would have played that game maybe 42-28, that they'd probably be 20 spots higher, I would argue. Number 55, you got the 2020 Notre Dame team. Went 10-2, lost in the first round of the playoffs to Alabama 31-14. That was the Alabama team that, played in the conference for the first time ever. Went 10-0, won the ACC regular season, lost to Clemson in the playoff, beat a number 1 Clemson during the regular season. That was a really good Notre Dame team that had Ian Book, Kyron Williams, ton of talent on that Notre Dame team. The defense, Kyle Hamilton, guys like that running all over the place. Tough team to beat. But as you see as we go down that list, some of these COVID teams were, I don't know if they're really good, but I think they benefited from a lot of other teams, just the different ways they handled it. At number 54, we have last year's Indiana team, another one that I do not agree with whatsoever. It was Curt Cignetti's first team. They lost by 10 points in the first round to a team that played in the national championship. I mean, Curt Cignetti has 2 losses as the coach of Indiana, and they played in the national championship. And I would be willing to bet that I don't think 2024's Notre Dame is just right above it. I think it's a pretty good ways up there. But they even ranked that Ohio State team from last year, way too high if 54 is where you're going to put Indiana. Because 53 is this year's Miami team. A lot of people will say, did they deserve to be in? Did they not deserve to be in? Well, this is a turnover-prone Miami team. Carson Beck's your quarterback. That tells you all you need to know. You got Mario Cristobal as your head coach who makes terrible late-game decisions. I mean, I don't know how anybody can look at this year's Miami team and last year's Indiana team and say that one's better. That's all I'll say. And then 2024 Arizona State. This team lost in the Peach Bowl in the the quarterfinals of the playoff last year. Were 11-3. It was a pretty good Arizona State team. You had Sam Levitt, Cam Scatterboot, Jordan Tyson. That offense was awesome. But the defense wasn't very good. Maybe there were some questionable calls in that Peach Bowl is the reason they lost. I don't know, but I think that was maybe you could bump them back a little bit because I think that for the majority of that game, Texas was handling it. They got some late momentum due to some big plays by Scatterboot, but number 51, the 2024 Tennessee team that lost in the first round of the playoff, 42-17 to Ohio State. Listen, that offense was not good that year. I would rank this team I'd rank this team below this year's Oklahoma team because I think this year's Tennessee team is a slightly worse version of that Oklahoma team. I think Oklahoma's offense is slightly better than Tennessee's was that year because Tennessee went halves without scoring. They didn't score in the first half against Georgia. They may have scored. They did score in the first half against Georgia. Actually, a good bit. They didn't score in the second half was the problem. But they didn't score in the first half against Alabama. They didn't score in the first half against Florida. They didn't score more than, 3 points in the first half against Arkansas. Arkansas. They were giving up 80 points to everybody this year, but not that week last year. Their defense kept them in a lot of games, but not much. They made the playoffs that year, but they're, from a Tennessee fan, not a whole lot of not a whole lot of memories from that year. We beat Bama, you beat Florida. Those were cool, but that 2022 year, man, it's just one I'm going to be thinking about for a long time. Texas A&M from this year, ranked at number 50. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Maybe should be a bit higher, but you look at that loss to Texas. They didn't look good at all in that game against Texas, and a lot of people are picking Miami to upset them tomorrow morning. I'll get to my picks in a little bit. This team lost one game, and they're back at 50 already. I mean, if this was a 14 playoff, they wouldn't have been. They that last game would have lost it for them. 49, the 2014 Florida State team that went 13-1, lost to Oregon in the playoffs, got destroyed by that Oregon team. Yeah, I mean, that Florida State team was undefeated. They were going to make the playoff. They were running through everybody in the ACC, but that Oregon team was really good. And unfortunately, both Bama or Ohio State, I don't think it would have mattered who would have won that game. That team, the winner of that Sugar Bowl, was going to win the national championship. Number 48, the 2018 Notre Dame team that lost to Clemson 30-3 in the first round of the playoff. I mean, that Notre Dame team played some really good teams. Michigan was really good that year. Stanford had a good year that year, and Syracuse was actually a pretty formidable opponent. The defense was so good, and I mean, they were one of the 3 or 4 best defensive teams in the country that year, but their offense wasn't there. That was a Clemson team that had Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne. You go to the wideouts, T. Higgins, Amari Rodgers, Justin Ross. He came alive in those playoffs. I mean, the defense was loaded as well. I mean, A.J. Terrell, get the pick 6 in the first play of the national championship game. I'm fine with Notre Dame being right there. Number 47, this year's Ole Miss team. 11-1. I don't know how you could rank them this high without their coach, because this article came out earlier this week. They knew that Ole Miss does not have a head coach for this game, and you still ranked a couple of really good teams behind them. That one I shake my head a little bit about. The 2021 Cincinnati team. Another one that I think they ranked a little too high. It was a group of 5 team. They only lost by 21 to Alabama, and Alabama beat everybody I think that was the year that Georgia actually beat Alabama in the national championship. But I think they just let Cincinnati in to say we let a group of 5 team into the 14 playoff. I mean, they didn't really look good at all. And that was an Alabama team that it was pretty much just Bryce Young and Jameson Williams at that point. They had already lost John Mechie in the SEC championship game. They were a little gimpy, so to speak, going into that game. Number 45, the 2018 Oklahoma team that went 12-2, lost to Alabama 45-34. That was the Kyler Murray Heisman year. Their offense was a little better overall on the season, but listen, they got Alabama didn't care that in that second half of the Orange Bowl. Let's just go ahead and put it that way. Alabama was up 31-10, 31-7, something like that. It may have even been worse than that. I know Alabama had 31, but I mean, that defense was so bad. And it's funny because I think of Mike Stoops, who was the defensive coordinator, as a good defensive coach, and just did not work. I think that Oklahoma team's a little too high. And they had some fun moments in that year. And Kyler Murray, I still think the way he runs with the football is like a toddler running around with their mom's phone. It's just the funniest thing. And then one spot above them, the 2015 Oklahoma team lost to Clemson 37-17. That was the, I believe that was the Baker Mayfield year. It was he was a sophomore transfer quarterback. That was a very good Oklahoma team. You had Baker Mayfield. He didn't have a great NFL career, but Sterling Shepard was on that team. He was really good. Samaje Perine. I believe they had another back on that team as well. But D.D. Westbrook, I think he was like 4th in the Heisman that year. He put up some stupid numbers. That was a really good Oklahoma team. 43, the 2016 Ohio State team that lost 31-0 to Clemson in the first round. Yeah, I mean, they just ran into that Clemson team. I mean, it was one of Urban Meyer's better teams, but trying to run it back was going to be a bit of a bit much for them. One spot above them, the 2017 Clemson team that lost to Alabama in the first round of the playoffs, 24-6. That was when we went through a stretch where they were playing for the championship every year, and then one year they weren't. This was the in-between Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. This was the Kelly Bryant year. It was still a very good Clemson team, and a lot of people thought that they were going to quietly go into the playoffs and do what they do, make it to the championship game, and continue Clemson's dominant stretch right there. But man, that Alabama team, that defense, they they ended up winning the national championship, and it wasn't their offense that did it that year. I mean, they benched their quarterback in the championship game. Alabama did. That was an Alabama defense. I mean, you saw I think it was Deron Payne had a touchdown, or maybe it was Quentin Williams. It was somebody like that had a offensive touchdown in that game as a defensive player, and that was really fun. 41, the 2023 Alabama team. I mean, I don't know. That was the Alabama team that made the playoffs over Georgia and Florida State. It was a little controversial because Georgia went from 1-6 or 1-5 after that playoff game, and you put Texas in, you had to put Alabama in. Lost a close one to a Michigan team that went on and went to win the national championship. That was a good team. Nick Saban's last ride, I think that had a little bit of a nostalgic feel to it. Number 40, you got the 2021 Michigan team, that Michigan team that finally broke through, finally beat Ohio State, made it to the playoff, and then got drugged by Georgia. 34-11. Harbaugh had a good team. He had the Joe Moore offensive line of the year. I think Caden McNamara was still his quarterback at that point, but that was when he had the two running back system of Kenneth Walker and actually it wasn't Kenneth Walker. It was why can't I think of his name? It was Blake Corum and I think Donovan Edwards may have had a big run in that game, but there was someone else I'm thinking of, and I'm gonna look it up right now because it is driving me crazy. Because they had a really good running back room that year. Hassan Haskins, that's who it was. Hassan Haskins had a big game against Ohio State. I think that game was in the snow that year, but they just didn't have enough offense to get them to the national championship that year, and that was a really good Georgia team on the first half of their back-to-back. 39, last year's Penn State team. I mean, they had the most beneficial. I mean, that was handing James Franklin a national championship game appearance, because you got SMU, Boise, Notre Dame. When there were other teams like Ohio State that had to go through Tennessee and Oregon and Texas, Penn State got this. And, they fell to Notre Dame. I can name the players from this team, just looking at the offense. I mean, Drew Aller, the tandem running backs, Katron Allen, Nick Singleton. You had Keandre Lambert-Smith. The defense had Abdul Carter and all kinds of talent. Their offense has taken a step up, but just wasn't meant to be. And I think that loss to Notre Dame kind of catapulted into this year. As soon as things went wrong with that first loss to Oregon, everything fell apart. Because I think in their mind it was perfect or bust, and I think that built a little too much tension for the 2025 Penn State team. That year before team was really good, but the 12-team playoff was made for Penn State, and unfortunately weren't able to capitalize. Then we'll go to the year before that with the 2023 Texas team. It was the Texas team that went into Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama that year. Quinn Ewers, his first year really figuring it out. I mean, that offense, A.D. Mitchell, the defense was exceptional as well. And I think that Washington versus Texas 2023 playoff game is one of my favorites. It went all the way up right till midnight. Penix threw for like 450 yards or something like that. It was an all-time game. Great one. Number 37, the 2022 TCU team. If you don't lose by 58 in the national championship team, you're probably 10 spots higher. If you lose by 20 in the national championship game, you're probably 15th. That TCU team was not one of the four best teams in the playoff. They won a game. I still don't think they were one of the four best teams that year. The 2022 playoffs, the first round were so good. Championship wasn't, but the first round was awesome. All four of those teams were awesome. Michigan would have played Georgia much better in that championship game. I'm curious what Ohio State TCU would have looked like, or maybe Ohio State Michigan again, because I think Michigan actually handled them pretty good that year. Number 36, last year's Texas team, I would not have had ranked above 2023's. Beat Clemson, beat Arizona State, lost to Ohio State. Kind of the same thing as Penn State. They had a somewhat advantageous route because Clemson was not a top 12 team. Arizona State was not a top 4 team. But they got to play them. Really, really good offense that year. I mean, everybody had come back. Quinn Ewers had figured things out maybe, but late in the season, you could tell that Texas was going to take a step back. They couldn't beat Georgia either time they played them, and then ran into Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. Number 35, the 2016 Washington team. I mean, that defense had Budda Baker, Greg Gaines. The offense, it had some superstars. Jake Browning was a great college quarterback. I can't think of his name now. Ross, I think was his name. John Ross, I think, the third. He was ran the fastest 40 of all time up to that point. He never panned out in the NFL. That was a fun Washington team, but man, Alabama was really good in 2016. At number 34, we have last year's Georgia team. I don't think that last year's Georgia team was anything special. They beat Texas twice, and they really benefited from that, but you lose to Alabama. You lose to Ole Miss, and then you lose to Notre Dame. And Kirby got out-coached by Marcus Freeman in that game, just top to bottom. Now, Carson Beck gets hurt in the SEC championship game. Gunnar Stockton fills in the second half of that championship game, and then the playoff. He didn't help them. Stockton didn't, but I don't think Beck not playing hurt them because Beck was very turnover prone that year, and who's to say he wouldn't throw 3 picks against Notre Dame in that playoff game? And then one spot above last year's Georgia, this year's Georgia team, who I think is much better on offense, not as turnover prone, and when they lock in on defense and running the ball, like some of the things that early 2020s Georgia would do, they are just as good. At number 32, this year's Oregon team, ranked just above Georgia. It's a young Oregon team, so I have a hard time putting them this high, but every time they've gotten in a game where they need to kind of bow up, they've been able to. At number 31, the 2017 Oklahoma team. This was Lincoln Riley's first year as Oklahoma's head coach. I mean, they were destroying everybody that year. That was Baker's Heisman year. And I think probably the best playoff game of all time, that Rose Bowl against Georgia. Go back and watch it. It was awesome. No defense was played in that game. And funny enough, because I think 2017 Oklahoma and Georgia both had good defenses, but those offenses, man. I mean, Georgia, that was Sony Michel and Nick Chubb on the same team. I mean, that's crazy. Oklahoma, I mean, they had the Heisman winner Baker Mayfield. CeeDee Lamb was with them. I think they still had Piron. He may have graduated the year before. At number 30, we have this year's Texas Tech team. I think it's too hard to judge this year's teams because they haven't played the playoff game yet. Because I think if you rank the playoff teams, the 52 going into last year, I think you probably have Ohio State is one of the lower ones. Because before that playoff, they had zero momentum. Texas Tech has a lot of momentum right now, and I think they could be as high as a top 10 team. Because that defense, Jacob Rodriguez, David Bailey, the best linebacker and the best defensive end in the country. And they have a very efficient offense. Baron Morton, Cam Dickey, Ja'Cory Williams, I believe is his name, their backup running back. They have the talent. I have them going pretty far in my playoff bracket. We'll talk about that closer to some of those games. At number 29, we have the 2023 Washington team, Michael Penix, Roma Dunze, Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan. That offense was awesome. Ran into a Michigan defense that knew play was coming before it was called. I don't know if that had any impact on the national championship game, but go back and watch that semifinal game. Some of those semifinal games from the 4-team era were awesome because Michael Penix was putting a ball to, it didn't matter, Dunze, Polk, McMillan. I mean, he put it on a dime 30, 40 yards down the field, back shoulder. I mean, it was beautiful. 28 to 2022 Ohio State team. That was C.J. Stroud. That was Maserati Marv. I mean, that was a good team, a really good team. And then C.J. Stroud had to answer a lot of questions because people were, really on him before that game. And he went out and played the best game of his college career. Unfortunately, it was his last, I believe. But came out and had one of the better games of his college career. And had him a field goal away. And if Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't get taken out of that game, literally, I mean, it was a concussion, I don't think anybody was stopping Ohio State, but they looked good that year. Number 27, we have the 2020 Clemson team that got drilled by Ohio State in the, I believe it was the Orange Bowl. But anyway, that was the Clemson team. Trevor Lawrence had missed earlier in the year a game because he had COVID, and came back later in the season. That Clemson team was awesome. They won the ACC championship game against Notre Dame. Were a 2 seed, I believe, maybe a 3 seed in the playoff. Got matched up with an Ohio State team that had played like 6 games, and then while Clemson had played 11, and then Ohio State ran through them because Clemson was a little beat up at that point. I think it was the Sugar Bowl, but man, that was the Justin Fields emergence game. And man, just throwing to those guys, Olave. Man, that was a good Ohio State team too. We'll see them a little further down the road. The 2022 Michigan team that lost in the first round of the playoff to TCU, 51-45. That was Jim Harbaugh's best team. I think I firmly believe that. But it wasn't his best quarterback. I think J.J. McCarthy's growth from 2022 to 2023 was really big. I was still a big Cade McNamara guy. I thought he was better than McCarthy in 2022, but obviously they saw a bigger future with McCarthy, so it was a good move in hindsight. Number 25, the 2024 Notre Dame team. How? They were the national runner-up to a really good Ohio State team that you have. Let's see where you have the 2024 Ohio State team. Just a little preview. You have them at 10. And you have a team that was a couple scores behind them, ranked all the way back at 25. Feels a little disrespectful because I think that Notre Dame team had a pretty rough route, honestly. You had to beat Indiana, who had lost one game that year to Ohio State. Cool. You go, and then you beat Georgia. And everybody, SEC, big bad. Well, you big bad to the SEC, 23-10, and you outcoached them. Miraculous comeback against Penn State where you forgot to play offense for the first half, and then Jeremiah Love and Jaden Greathouse saved you. And then you lose to Ohio State by 11 in the national championship. It was an 8-point game until Ohio State picked up that big play to Jeremiah Smith. Notre Dame was coming back in that game. I feel like a lot of people forget that. Number 24, the 2014 Oregon team. That was Marcus Mariota's Heisman year. I mean, he had 5,200 yards and 57 touchdowns. One of the best offensive seasons of all time. Unfortunately, I don't think that Oregon team had a very good defense, and Ohio State dominated them in the national championship game, but I don't think that Oregon team should be forgotten whatsoever. And an Oregon team that will be forgotten is their team ranked just above them, last year's Oregon team that was perfect their first year in the Big Ten. Won that stunner against Ohio State at home. You make it to the Big Ten championship game. You beat Penn State. And then you had number 1, 13-0, waiting at the Rose Bowl for who other than Ohio State. And Will Howard and Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and all those guys just absolutely destroyed him. And, it sucks because that Oregon team had Dylan Gabriel, Heisman finalist, Jordan James, a 1,300 yards rusher, one of the best pass defenses in the country, and Ohio State made them look like a JV team. Ranked one spot above that Oregon team is this year's Ohio State team, who might be in the same boat. They'll play the winner of Texas A&M and Miami. They were good this year. Ohio State didn't do anything flashy. They haven't done anything flashy yet. They might pull it out in the playoffs again like they did last year, but I don't see it. Julian Sand had a great year. Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate had good years. Bo Jackson and Donaldson. It was a great running back tandem. And the defense was one of the best. It's the best in the country. Is one of the better ones we've seen in the last 5 to 10 years. The 2014 Alabama team that lost in the first round of the playoff to Ohio State, that was the first year of the Lane Kiffin offense at Alabama. And boy, it was a fun year. Lost to Ole Miss earlier in the season, and then you lose to an Ohio State team that dominated everyone in the national championship game by 7. That Ohio State team was just, it was... it's funny. Both of Ohio State's national championships, they turned into a different team right before the playoff and absolutely run through everybody. And you can thank a third-string quarterback named Cardale Jones for that. The next year, we have the 2015 Clemson team that lost in the national championship to Alabama. That was the first year we've, kind of saw the Clemson that we know now today with Deshaun Watson. But that Alabama team was not losing that game. The next year we have 2017 Georgia that lost on the last play of the game to Alabama. That defense was awesome. It was their first year they really came on. They went to Notre Dame and beat Notre Dame that year. Bunch of big wins. And Kirby's second year in Athens, he really figured things out in a big way. I mean, their only losses that year were to Auburn and then to Alabama in the national championship game. But you would avenge that. Auburn lost already in the SEC championship game. Number 18, the 2020 Ohio State team that lost 52-24 to Alabama in the national championship game. They were good, but that Alabama team was better. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but man, there was no beating that team. Number 17, we have the 2021 Alabama team. They beat Cincinnati and lost to Georgia. That was Bryce Young. That was Will Anderson. You had probably the best offensive and best defensive player in the country at that point. But you lose Jameson Williams in the middle of that game. That was your offensive. That was your big play guy, and that was the only way you were going to beat Georgia that year because you weren't going to sit there and nickel and dime them. You didn't have the backfield to do that. And number 16, we have this year's Indiana team, ranked a little higher than maybe I would like to see them. But I mean, I think they're the highest ranked team of this year. I mean, they're number one. You would think so. I'm pretty sure we've seen everybody else in the top 4 at least. I think that's a little high because we haven't seen them play in the playoff yet. They could get drugged like that Oregon team did, and they're ranked all the way at number 23. They're missing some guys with some injuries that you had in that Big Ten championship game, and they're going to have a physical battle. It's going to be Oklahoma or Alabama. We'll be in the Rose Bowl, so it'll be nice warm weather out there, but maybe a little bit high. Our first national, or I think this is our second to last non-national champion, the 2016 Alabama team. Best defense I've ever seen. I mean, that was... Let me just pull up that roster, because that defense, just NFL. Everywhere. I mean, I can name some of the guys off the top of my head, but I don't want to miss any of them. Okie dokie. Let's look at the... Defense was starting... Yes, make sure this is defense. Minkah Fitzpatrick, Marlon Humphrey. That was your defensive backs. You had Jonathan Allen, Ryan Anderson, Reuben Foster, Tim Williams, Eddie Jackson. I mean, that defense was stout. And here's the points they gave up. 6 to USC, 10 to Western Kentucky, 43 to Ole Miss, but they ended up coming back and winning that game. Nothing to Kent State, 6 to Kentucky, 30 to Arkansas in a game where they had a pick 6. Is Ben trying to make me smile over there, standing in the door. 10 points to Tennessee, 14 to A&M. I mean, that defense was unstoppable. At number 13 and 14, a tie between Ohio State and Clemson. That year, Clemson beat Ohio State in the first round and then lost to LSU in the championship game. That was the really good LSU team. I think everyone else was just playing for second that year. And this game was awesome. A lot of people say the officials helped Clemson win that game. Maybe, because you have the fumble, you have the targeting call. I think Clemson just took advantage of what was given to them. And they played LSU pretty good. I don't think Ohio State would have played them much better. That was just playing for second place. Number 12, the 2015 Alabama team. This is our first national champion. Yeah, I mean, that was a good Alabama team. Saban and Kiffin finally got it done together. Jay Coker, probably the most out-of-nowhere Alabama quarterback of all time, because a lot of people don't remember him, and he won the first college football playoff national championship for Alabama. Then we have the next year's Clemson team, who beat Alabama on that last play of the game. Or it wasn't the last play of the game. One of the last plays of the game, Deshaun Watson hit the little out route on the pick play to, why can't I think of his name? Hunter Renfrow. I was about to say, I'm looking at his face right now. That team was so good. That Alabama team was really good, but that was a game where whoever had the ball last, and Alabama ended up having the ball last technically, but whoever had the ball last in this game was going to win. And, Clemson was in scoring position late. Alabama had some injuries. I think Bo Scarborough had broken his ankle or something like that in that game. Props to Clemson. That was a great national championship. Then we have 2014 Ohio State, I think ranked a little low. I think we're better than the 2024 Ohio State team because, they ran through everybody in the playoff, and they won their national championship game by twice as much as the team that's ranked just above them at number 9, the 2024 Ohio State team. Look, if you grade them off their first 3 games, they might be the best national champion ever. I think that national championship game against the Notre Dame team that you obviously respected little enough to put it 25 below some teams that didn't make it out of the quarterfinal of the playoff that same year. That's just my thoughts on that. At number 8, we have the 2018 Alabama national champion runner-up. Wow, that's a really high spot for a runner-up team. That Alabama team was good, but they ran into a Clemson team that is ranked a good bit higher than them at this point. And that was a fun national championship game until, I don't know, probably 2 minutes in when Clemson got that pick six and you realized it was over. Ranked one spot above the Alabama team that beat Georgia on the last play of the game the year before. I mean, that defense was really, really good. But, I mean, they really kind of... I've heard, I don't know if it was Tua or Najee Harris, one talking about the stories of the backups that year thought they were better than the starters. Because your backups were Tua, Najee Harris, Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy, those guys. And then, obviously, the first famous play in the Devontae Smith career was the national championship catch from Tua on 2nd and 26. And Alabama had to come back in that national championship game. And it was a good one. Ranked at number 6, the 2021 Georgia team. One of the best defenses we've ever seen. I mean, they were boat racing everybody. Beat Alabama in the SEC championship game. Beat Alabama in the national championship game. Actually, I believe they lost to Bama in the SEC championship game. Then beat them in the playoffs. I mean, that Keely Ringo pick six really tells the story of that game. That was an ugly national championship game. I remember watching it with some friends. It was a field goal fest, back and forth, until Georgia finally broke through there at the end. Number 5, the 2018 Clemson team, the national champions. I think the first ever perfect national champion that we had up to that point, and boy, did they deserve it. I mean, Trevor Lawrence really established this team as one of the best teams in the country, and they destroyed Alabama. The offense was better, the defense was better, Clemson was better on both sides of the ball that night. Number 4, the 2023 Michigan team, which I would have had below the 2018 Clemson teams, and probably the 2017 and 2021 Georgia teams. I don't look at this Michigan team as that good. I think that they just benefited from an easy playoff. Because I don't think that Alabama team in 2023 was very good. I think if you put, probably not Florida State, but you put Georgia in there, I think Georgia beats them. Because they could not beat Georgia. That was Michigan's thing. They would run into an SEC team and lose to them in the playoffs. At number 3 is that 2022 Georgia team, a team I was talking about a minute ago that won the national championship game by 58 points. I think they benefited more from an easier game than being that much better than TCU. Their national championship game was that Ohio State game, the game before. And number 2, we have the 2019 LSU team. I think that this is a complete disservice that this is number 1. I mean, let's just go look at the NFL players on this roster. And their coach, I mean, Ed Orgeron comes out of nowhere and quietly just has the greatest team of all time. I mean, he had Dave Aranda in there as the defensive coordinator. But looking at, let's see if we've got a depth chart in here. Here we go. So the offense. Joe Burrow was your quarterback. Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Tyrion Davis-Price, both guys in the NFL. Wide receivers, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Terrence Marshall, Thaddeus Moss. I would assume most of these guys are in the NFL, the offensive lineman. He is not. I know he is in the NFL, yes. Actually plays for the Titans, Lloyd Cushenberry. He is, and he is. So 4 of the 5 offensive linemen on that team are in the NFL, and I know at least one of them starting. Then you go to the defense: Christian Fulton, Derek Stingley, Grant Delpit, Patrick Queen, Jacob Phillips, Clavon Chason. I mean, that defense was insane. At number 1, the 2020 Alabama Crimson Tide team. They won the playoff by 7. Their first round of the playoff game by 17. Their national championship game by 28. I mean, they had 3 of the top 5 in Heisman that year. I mean, let's just look at that offense. Let's do the same thing we did with the number 2 team. We'll do it with the number 1 team and see if there is really any argument to be made there. Because people forget the 2019 Alabama team that didn't make the playoff was probably just as good, if not better, than that LSU team. Now, LSU won the matchup, but... So, let's go through the... Do we have a depth chart? I just go over the coaching staff. I mean, it's got some big names. Nick Saban, Steve Sarkisian, he's the head coach at Texas. Charles Huff, the head coach at Memphis. Jeff Banks, the associate head coach at Texas with a start. Pete Golding, head coach at Ole Miss. Charles Kelly, the head coach at Jacksonville State right now. I mean, then you got some other guys that are elsewhere with other people, but Carl Scott, Sal Sunseri. Then you have some pretty good assistants and analysts. Butch Jones, Alex Mortensen, Major Applewhite, Mike Stoops, Charlie Strong, some guys like that. But man, this team. Here we go. So Mac Jones was your starting quarterback. Bryce Young was your second string. And Bear Bryant's grandson or great-grandson was your third string quarterback. Your wide receivers, John Mechie, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle. That'll play. And, you had some names that Bama fans know, like Trayshawn Holden and Slade Bolden behind some of those receivers. Forrestall, tight end, Jaleel Billingsley. They had good years. Alex Leatherwood, Landon Dickerson, Evan Neal, Emil Ekiyor Jr. And that entire offensive line's in the NFL right now. The defense, Josh Jobe, Patrick Surtain, Jalen Armour Davis. The linebackers, Dylan Moses, Christian Harris, Will Anderson, and Ben Davis. Jordan Battle, DeMarco Helms, Malachi Moore, Brian Branch, some of the younger guys on this team. And they just destroyed everyone. So that is the list of the top 60 or all 64 college football playoff teams being ranked. Some good, some bad. But now let's look at this playoff, because we've got a game tonight. We've got 3 tomorrow. And boy, it's exciting. I'm so excited that it's finally here. Playoff is not as fun when your team's not in it, but now that they've expanded it as well, when you got more games, it's got more of a March Madness type feeling where you want to sit on your TV, sit on the couch, watch TV all day and watch these games. So we'll start with the one tonight, 7 p.m. on ABC, the number 9 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide, runner-up in the SEC, taking on a team that gave them one of those 3 losses, the number 8 ranked Oklahoma Sooners. Oklahoma's favored by 1.5 at home, over-under total points set at 41.5. I don't think it'll get there. It's cold. You're not going to be kicking very well in this game due to the wind. It's going to come down to Alabama's pass game again. Looking at the last time these two teams played, maybe it's a little annoying seeing the same 2 teams play again, but it gives us something to look at when trying to base this game. It was a 23-21 win in Tuscaloosa earlier in the season. Ty Simpson threw for 326 yards. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Funny enough, Oklahoma didn't even have 215 yards. So Ty Simpson threw for 110 more yards than Oklahoma had as a team. Daniel Hill, who is not going to be in this game, was the leading rusher. He had, was by far your leading rusher and 2 touchdowns. You'll get Jam Miller back, who ran for 3 yards a carry in that game, so you're not going to be running the ball. And you look at the receivers in this game. Cuevas had 80 yards, Bernard 71, Horton 56, Williams 45. You're going to have to work these receivers and tight ends in. Because Oklahoma is going to let you can throw the ball all you want down the field, but as soon as you try to run it, you're stuck, because they are not going to let you run the ball. It's going to come down to mistakes. Mateer only threw the ball 23 times for 138 yards, a lot of short stuff. I think their longest pass play was 20 yards. And he had 1 rushing touchdown. Oklahoma is going to do whatever they can to control this ball and not turn it over. If Alabama plays a little willy-nilly and tries something fancy and they do turn it over, it's going to cost them, because I think there was only, 2 turnovers in this game for Alabama? 3? 2 fumbles and an interception. The interception cost you the touchdown, which cost you the game. And funny enough, you had a missed field goal in that game that also could have changed things. But I don't think this is going to be a game where Alabama's going to put it on the leg of Connor Talty. I just don't think so. It's going to come down to, and another thing that's going to be important, Oklahoma's offense has got to get down the field. I think they have some big play potential. Isaiah Sategna, obviously. Xavier Robinson, he breaks off the field like a big run every game. Just need a couple of those big plays and then prevent Alabama from doing anything like that. I've got Oklahoma just because, I don't know, if you watch the Alabama team that played in the SEC championship game, I obviously don't think they were going to show anything or anything like that, but I do think that it's hard to come back and play like that or play better after a game like that. But who knows? So going over some injuries for these two teams. First for Oklahoma, running back Javonte Barnes was upgraded from probable to available. Gentry Williams out, Kendall Dolby out, Jeremiah Newcomb out, and Troy Everett out for Oklahoma. Jake Makula, the offensive lineman, has gone from questionable to doubtful, so it looks like he will probably not be playing. And then for Alabama, Cameron Howard out, Latham out, LT Overton out, Drake Kirkpatrick out, and Kevin Riley out. Overton and Riley are big because that is a big running back and that is a big defensive lineman. You need big bodies in this game, and you're not going to have them. Danny Lewis and Josh Cuevas both probable. They've been upgraded from questionable to probable. I would expect them to play in this one. And then Jeremiah Beeman also out. So not a whole lot of availability changes in this one. I think it's big for Oklahoma to get Javonte Barnes back. He hasn't ran in a while, and Torrey Blaylock has not been able to run the ball very well. If they can give themselves a array of backs, they can, maybe someone's not gonna get 15 carries, but I bet if you got 4 guys with 8 carries, that would work. I'm really struggling on who to pick here because it's gonna be one of those that's down to the wire. Just based off injuries and you've heard the things about maybe Ty Simpson has a back injury that has been, a lingering back injury. And without an extra running back for pass protection, if he gets hit hard by Oklahoma's front seven, which will probably happen a lot, I just don't think. I think he's going to start slowly getting back up, just continuously getting beat up. I don't think he's going to get hurt, but I do think that it's going to play a bit of an impact. I'm going to go with Oklahoma in this one. They beat them in Tuscaloosa a couple weeks ago. I think they're going to beat them in Norman tonight. Tomorrow, the college game day game of the morning. We've got Miami and we've got Texas A&M, the I Beat Notre Dame Bowl. Look at how both of these teams are playing as of late. Look, Miami's probably played their best football the last couple of weeks, really since that SMU game. They destroyed Syracuse, destroyed NC State. Same thing with Virginia Tech and Pitt. They earned a playoff spot the last couple of weeks. I really believe that. But you look... Yeah, their defense ain't giving up a lot, but their offense isn't scoring a lot. And they haven't been playing great offenses. I mean, Pitt's offense, I think their last game of the season won them. If Pitt kept that one close, I think Notre Dame still gets in over Miami at that point. But, I mean, they aren't playing outstanding offenses. Virginia Tech, Syracuse, SMU, Louisville aren't over-the-top great offenses. But Miami's been playing good as of late. Texas A&M has not. I look at this year's Texas A&M as having the potential. I'm not saying they will, but having the potential to be the last year's Ohio State because they haven't been playing good. You had to come back from 27 down to beat Carolina. You lose to Texas. Yeah, you're not looking great. But you look at the team. Marcel Reed, thrown for almost 3,000 yards this year, 25 touchdowns. You got a collection of running backs, Reuben Owens, Le'Veon Moss. Check the injury report, see if either of them are on it. Moss is questionable, but they have not updated the injury report today. So you're probably going to have both your running backs. You're going to have your quarterback. You're going to have Concepcion. You're going to have Craver. Ashton Bethel-Roman, you'll have him too. That offense is really good for Texas A&M. Their defense, yeah, it's left some to be desired, but you look at their last couple of games against SEC opponents, it's not been the greatest. 27 to Texas, 30 to Carolina, 17 to Missouri without their quarterback, 25 to LSU, 42 to Arkansas. Their defense has been giving up some points this year. I think it's gonna be big. That game being at noon also, I get why they kind of moved the games where they did time-wise. But noon environments are a little tough to get up for. I'm going Miami. it's tough to see Texas A&M go from perfect number 3 in the country to 2 losses and out of the playoff in the first round. But you've been sitting on your butt for a couple of months and you haven't been playing good before then. At least for Miami, they're playing a couple weeks ago and have looked good. Tulane and Ole Miss, not a whole lot to talk about with these. We saw this game earlier in the season. It was 45-10. I don't think it'd be much different. Obviously, Ole Miss is probably taking a step back. They do have their offensive and defensive coordinators from the team during the regular season. Pete Goling, now the acting head coach. Charlie Weiss Jr., still the offensive coordinator. But how big of a difference are we going to see without Lane there? Are they going to be a fiery team? Are we going to see an Ole Miss that comes out and absolutely demolishes Tulane? Or are we going to see them come out, be a little shaken, maybe a little scared of the lights, and Tulane with a fiery head coach and John Sumrall and a gritty team? They could come in and make it a game, but I don't see any way that Ole Miss loses this game. If there was a game where a Group of 5 team could win, I would say it's this one, just because of the matchup in the next one. Number 12, James Madison, 12-1 on the year, taking on number 5, Oregon. It's not a matchup we saw earlier in the year, but James Madison's in Virginia. They have made the travel all the way out west to Oregon. That's a big difference. The game's at 6:30 p.m. Central or Eastern, Central time. So it'd be 7:30 Eastern for the guys from James Madison. It's only going to end up being a 4:30 local kick out west. But Oregon has consistently looked like one of the better teams in the country this year. and Dante Moore is one of the most efficient quarterbacks. I just think that this is the kind of defense he can tear apart. I really do. James Madison might be able to put up some points, but Oregon is just a little bit too good for this one. Now, let's look at some of the bowl games we have coming up over the next couple of weeks. Starting with tonight, actually. We have 2 bowl games today, one going on actually right now, so we will check in on that one. Man, they're starting the bowl games early today. It's Friday. That's fair. So right now we have the Myrtle Beach Bowl going on, and Western Michigan came to play, folks. They are currently leading 41-0 early in the third quarter, and Western Michigan's quarterback has 17 passing yards on 4 of 7 completions, 2 touchdowns. But they have 250 rushing yards on 26 carries in the first half. This game's over. I was hoping we would have something a little bit to talk about, but this game's 41-0. Western Michigan, man, doing it on the ground. Love to see it. MAC teams usually don't fare great in bowl games, but man, certainly the case today. And oh man, Western Michigan's still wearing the light yellow uniforms on this teal field and out in Myrtle Beach at Coastal Carolina. Tough look. But the other game today, we will the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl. We have the 8-4 Memphis Tigers, 7-5 NC State Wolfpack. You got 2 quarterbacks that put up a ton of yards, both throwing and rushing. Lewis and Bailey. I think Bailey's probably going to use this as a tryout for. He still hasn't entered the portal yet, which is crazy because we've had names like Josh Hoover hit the portal. We've had names like Bo Perbula enter the transfer portal. That was yesterday. Earlier we've had Arch Manning say he's taking a pay cut. Darian Mensah returning. Texas fired their defensive coordinator to hire Will Muschamp, which was an interesting kind of thing. Okay, so this is a fun little story. So I'll get back to the bowl games in a minute. So there was a video. I'm not sure exactly what school it was. I'm guessing a school in East Tennessee. They were singing Rocky Top at their Christmas program, and there's a little boy in the back in a red shirt who is a Georgia fan, just sitting back there shaking his head. He's not clapping, he's not singing, he's not even smiling. So that made some rounds yesterday. So Kirby Smart joked with Chris Lowe about building a statue for the young Georgia fan who refused to sing Rocky Top. Smart says, quote, we are currently fundraising to build a statue of him up near the stadium. If it doesn't cut into our NIL budget too much, we may get it up before we play Tennessee again in 2 years. So, fun little banter right there. But back to the Gasparilla Bowl. There's going to be a lot of points in this one. 56.5 is the point total. This looks a lot like Memphis and Arkansas from earlier in the year. Let's see if CJ Bailey is going to play today. So it looks like he will be playing. So I would say that fares really well for NC State. But Memphis has seen a guy like Bailey and Taylon Green this year, but they didn't see a running back like Hollywood Smothers. Almost 1,000 rushing yards on the year. Could get to it in this game here. But I think this is a team that has the ball last will win this one. I'll go with NC State. The rest of the games, Monday we have the famous Idaho Potato Bowl between Washington State and Utah State. Utah State favored by 1.5. Total points set at 49.5. Utah State's offense has looked really good this year. But Washington State, they've been up and down this year, but they've played really well against some teams. I'm gonna go with I'll go with Washington State. Give me the Cougars in this one. That brings us to Tuesday, the Boca Raton Bowl. This one, an interesting matchup. You usually don't see too many matchups like this, but Toledo and Louisville playing in the Boca Raton Bowl. This one at 1 p.m. on ESPN. I'm going Louisville. Listen, I already won. Max School is kind of trolling me for picking against them mentally. I wasn't able to make a pick of that one before the show, but I think even if Louisville does have a couple of guys sitting out, Brom's going to have them ready for that game. Again, that one at 1 p.m. on ESPN on next Tuesday. And also, that afternoon, we have the New Orleans Bowl between Western Kentucky and Southern Miss. Western Kentucky favored by 1.5. Their offense is still one of the better offenses in the country. Southern Miss looking for a new head coach after their coach left for Memphis. So I'm going to go with Western Kentucky to win the New Orleans Bowl. And the Frisco Bowl. This one's got a little bit of interesting drama to go along with it. So UNLV and Ohio, 8 p.m. ESPN. UNLV favored by 6.5. Total points set at 57.5. Now on Tuesday, Ohio head coach Brian Smith was fired for engaging in serious professional misconduct and participating in activities that reflect unfavorably on the university. And nobody knew what was going on. So WOUB, an NPR and PBS affiliate station in West Virginia and Southeast Ohio, sports directors Grant Kiefer reported that Smith had violated the university's alcohol policy by admitting to drinking alcohol in his office and storing it in his desk and inviting assistants to drink after games. And I thought that maybe maybe that's a reason, but it surely doesn't seem like a reason to lose your job over. Maybe a suspension or something like that. Well, then more reports started surfacing, telling a bit of a different story. Well, not a different story, but just adding a little bit more to it. This is per The Athletic. Ohio fired head football coach Brian Smith for having a romantic relationship with an undergrad student and for an allegation that he was intoxicated during a public appearance, according to documents obtained Thursday through a public records request. I mean, it's not a good look. Now, there were some reports from Smith's lawyer saying that one, that apparently the school doesn't have a policy on staff members dating students, and that he wasn't married at the time. So definitely not a good look. So yes, former Ohio head coach Brian Smith disputes with the university's claims, noting that he was already separated from his wife. He ended the relationship with the student as soon as he learned that she was a student, and the only romantic interest he encountered teen parents with was 41 years old. See, a lot going on in Ohio. They are going to continue to play this game as of yesterday. Not sure if this report will have any impact on that. My pick was going to be UNLV either way. I just think their offense is going to be one of the better ones in the country next year, as long as Dan Mullen's still there. On New Year's Eve, everybody's favorite New Year's Eve bowl, the Hawaii Bowl. This one will be at 7 p.m. on ESPN. 7-5 Cal, 8-4 Hawaii. Point total set at 54.5. Cal's favored by 1.5. It's the same thing I've said with Cal all season. If they don't turn the ball over, they will win this game. Will they turn the ball over? I would lean towards no. They hadn't had a turnover problem late in the year, and Hawaii isn't a team that's forcing a lot of turnovers. No bowl games on Christmas. There will be a couple of NFL games on Netflix. But that leads us to Friday, the 26th, the game above Sports Bowl. Central Michigan, Northwestern, 12 p.m. Eastern, or 12 p.m. Central on ESPN. Northwestern favored by 10.5, and I'm going to go with the Wildcats. I just think that they got some bigger guys than Central Michigan is, and might be able to push them around a little bit. The Rate Bowl, no longer the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, just the Rate Bowl. 9-3 New Mexico, 7-5 Minnesota, 3:30 on ESPN. Minnesota favored by 2.5 and an over/under of 44.5. Listen, I've been a big fan of Jason Eck all year. I think he's going to introduce himself back to the Big Ten with a big win over Minnesota. I'm going with New Mexico there. And the last bowl on Friday at 7 p.m., the First Responders Bowl, FIU, UTSA, 7 p.m. ESPN. I am going to go with the Roadrunners. Their offense has looked much more consistent this year than FIU. And I believe that FIU team is also without their head coach. Saturday, where we have a ton of bowl games. Actually, I think these are the last ones we will be talking about. Yes. So Saturday, December 27th, the Military Bowl, 8-4 Pitt, 8-4 Eastern Carolina at 10 a.m. on ESPN. I just don't know if East Carolina has enough offense to keep up with Pitt. Pitt's offense, while it looked bad against Miami, has looked good through against most people throughout the season. I'm going to go with Pitt to win the Military Bowl. And the college football playoff, no, I'm joking. This is actually the Pinstripe Bowl, Penn State and Clemson, 2 preseason top 5 teams. And now the Pinstripe Bowl, 11 a.m. on ABC. You got 2 big brands. I still think that Penn State's a little less motivated than Clemson would be. Now, I do think that the hire of Matt Campbell was great, but I think Clemson was a much better team this year than Penn State was. In the Fenway Bowl, we have 9-3 UConn, 6-6 Army. I get UConn has lost their head coach really unexpectedly, according to most of the reports with Mora. But that offense was so good this year. They beat the ACC champion, who is the only reason that some teams are in the playoff right now. So UConn, I'll give them the slight edge over Army. And now the new big daddy of them all when it comes to bowl games outside of the playoff, the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Number 22, Georgia Tech. Number 12, BYU. This one at 2:30 on ABC. BYU favored by 4.5. I'm going to go with the Cougars. I think that if they had to run into... I really do think that we're going to see how good this Texas Tech team was in the playoff, and I think that that's going to make people think that, oh, wow, we should have respected BYU a little bit more. I firmly believe that because this BYU team is good because, I mean, we've watched them all year. They're good. They've won 11 games. You don't do that on accident. And they have 2 losses to the same team who is the number 4 team in the country. I think they deserve a little more respect than that. The Arizona Bowl, Miami of Ohio, Fresno State. This one at 3:30 on the CW. Fresno State's favored by 4.5. Total points set at 42.5. I think Fresno's defense is a little bit better, and obviously not having to travel all the way across the country right after Christmas, I think that's going to be a bit of an impact on them. The New Mexico Bowl, it's number 25 and 11-2 North Texas versus 9-3 San Diego State at 4:45 on ESPN. North Texas favored by 3 points. Quarterback's entered the transfer portal. The coach is gone. I got to go with San Diego State here. I just think that they're not as drained from losing players. So I just think that Sean Lewis and his guys are going to be able to get it done. They've had a great year, so some ups and some downs, but all in all, they've had a great year. So I'm actually going to go through and change that pick because I believe I have Yes, I believe I do actually have North Texas picked, so I'm going to go to San Diego State. Our next game, the Gator Bowl, 6:30 p.m. on ABC. Number 19, Virginia, the ACC runner-up, versus Missouri. Bo Perbulus hit the transfer portal, so it's going to be Missouri's freshman quarterback riding them, kind of leading them into this game. I think Virginia's going to be a little pissed off about how the playoff went, because if they would have just beaten Duke, they'd be in the playoff right now and preparing for a game a bit sooner. But one that they probably wouldn't be as favored to win. I'm going to go with Virginia in this one. Missouri without their quarterback, I would assume maybe he's following their offensive coordinator, who left to take the head coaching job at Washington State. So, I'm going with Virginia in this one. Tony Elliott's got himself a squad with him and Chandler Morris and those guys. The Texas Bowl, LSU 7-5, number 21 Houston 9-3. I think LSU is working to look forward to 2026. I think they are completely done with this year. I think they're clocked out. Willie Fritz is known for winning some big bowl games. I got Houston in this one. So that will do it for our college football segment. Real quick, we are going to take a quick peek over onto the college basketball side and just preview some of the bigger games happening next week, at least Sunday on. So we will get right into that with Sunday. That will be the 21st. Teams in the AP ranked playing. You have Gardner-Webb at Tennessee. Oh, that is actually all D1, not AP Top 25. So it's Gardner-Webb, Tennessee, Colgate, Florida. Vandy and Wake Forest should be a good matchup. Vanderbilt, one of the best offenses in the country early in this season, have, other than Memphis, where they won in overtime, haven't really had much of a hiccup. Wake, though, on the other hand, has 3 losses. A 1-point loss in overtime to Michigan, a 1-point loss to Texas Tech, and a 18-point loss to Oklahoma. If you get the team that played Michigan or Texas Tech like that, Vandy will need to watch out. But if they get the team that played Oklahoma, it's going to be a big win for the Doors. That one at Wake Forest, I believe. Yes. Kennesaw State at Alabama, LaSalle at Michigan, UConn at DePaul, which should be a fairly good game there at Wintrust Arena in Chicago. DePaul's off to a better start than they have been. UConn still looks like the same old UConn. Gonzaga at Oregon. That would be in Portland at the Moda Center. Gonzaga looks like one of the best teams in the country. Oregon's really struggling this year. Long Beach State at Iowa State. That should be a big win for the Cyclones, and Nebraska hosting North Dakota. We'll dive a little further deep in to see if we got any bigger matchups. Penn State at Pitt, Ole Miss at NC State, Clemson at Cincinnati, all in the ACC in the Big 12. In the Big East, only that UConn and DePaul game. In the Big 10, covered everything. On to Monday. If I can find myself back here in the ACC. No big matchups, really. East Carolina at UNC, Fairleigh Dickinson, Boston College, those kinds of matchups. American at Virginia. Over in the Big 12, Mississippi Valley at West Virginia, Davidson at Kansas, Bethune-Cookman at Arizona, and Eastern Washington at BYU. Prayers for Bethune and Eastern Washington walking into those environments. In the Big East, NJIT at Butler, Coppin State, Georgetown, Utah Tech, and Creighton, so not many big matchups there. In the Big 10, Siena, Indiana, Central Michigan, Wisconsin, the big game of the night on FS1, I believe. At 7, number 18, Illinois, playing against Missouri at the Enterprise Center in St. Louis, and then San Diego at Washington. And then in the SEC, West Georgia at Georgia, South Carolina State at South Carolina, Prairie View A&M at LSU, Maryland Eastern Shore at Texas, and Stetson at Oklahoma. Believe we do have a couple of games on Tuesday. Not many. Nothing in the ACC. FAU UCF in the Big 12. Harvard St. John's Villanova Seton Hall. That Villanova Seton Hall game on the 23rd should be a pretty good one. Grambling and Ohio State, Riverside, and UCLA in the Big 10. And then Bellarmine at Kentucky in the SEC. And then pretty much everyone off again until the next Sunday. So we'll have a show to break all of that down. So that will do it for this Friday edition of the Mark My Words show here on the X Sports Network. No shows next week, so I hope everybody has a happy holidays, gets to spend a lot of time indoors with family, spending the holidays with your family, have some nice food, have some nice gifts, and really celebrate the season. So from everyone here at the X Sports Network, have a happy holidays, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.